We begin this morning with the historic legal battle between Dominion Voting Systems and Fox News.
Yeah, the trial will determine whether Fox can be held financially liable for publishing false claims that Dominion's voting machines rigged the 2020 presidential election, and the outcome could have far-reaching effects. Opening arguments were set to kick off today, but just last night, Delaware Superior Court Judge Eric Davis announced proceedings would be delayed until tomorrow. Reports from the Washington Post, the Wall Street Journal, and Reuters are citing sources who say Fox is pursuing settlement talks. Dominion and Fox have not commented on the delay. On Friday, a spokesperson for Fox News released a statement saying Dominion's lawsuit is a political crusade in search of a financial windfall, but the real cost would be cherished First Amendment rights. NBC News correspondent Emily Aketa is in Wilmington, Delaware with the latest. And NBC News legal analyst Danny Savalas is also joining us with a closer look at the case. Good morning to both of you. Emily, we'll start with you here. The trial delayed until tomorrow. Why is that? And what can we expect to happen in court if it still does come to that?
Well, good morning to you both. What was supposed to be playing out this morning at 9 a.m. now happening tomorrow morning. First will be the completion of the jury selection process. That's a process that first got underway last week. We were reporting on it. The court working to narrow down from hundreds of potential jurors descending here in Wilmington, Delaware, to 12 jurors and 12 alternates. The judge did express some concern in the pretrial hearings around the potential for juror tampering, considering the high nature profile of a case like this. He expressed the importance of protecting their privacy. But what's going to be happening tomorrow now? Well, lawyers from both sides, Fox and Dominion, will have the chance to strike 6 jurors each. They've been paying close attention to the answers from potential jurors around questions like, do you regularly watch Fox News programming? Do you know any family members, or have you previously worked in a newsroom? So that's going to be playing out tomorrow. After the jury is set, then opening arguments will begin. Dominion, we know, will first lead the way on that, then followed by Fox. But I think the delay in this and the reports of a potential push for settlement here underscore the point that at any point during this trial process, a settlement could be reached, guys.
And Danny, I want to bring you in here because it's important to note that Dominion has already proved that Fox's claims pertaining to Dominion in the 2020 election were false. They've been debunked. So what exactly do they have to prove now?
That's a huge win. It was decided in a pretrial motion, a rare win for a plaintiff, because normally judges let these issues go to the jury. So with the falsity now established, really the only thing left that Dominion has to prove is that Fox either knew it was false or they were reckless. In other words, they were like an ostrich hiding its head in the sand as to whether or not it was false, that they had good reason to know it was false and ignored it and went full steam ahead anyway. That is still not a layup for Dominion. They still have to meet that burden of proof, but they have a lot of evidence of people in the Fox chain of command that they can use to impute that knowledge or what they should have known at the time it was aired.
So, Emily, Danny mentioned Fox chain of command. I mean, who could we hear from testify in this trial? Are we talking big names that people would recognize?
Yeah, absolutely. A number of high-profile people, including some of Fox's most popular hosts, including Maria Bartiromo. There's the potential for Tucker Carlson, Sean Hannity. But what we don't know is when we could see these people actually take the stand. We could also hear from Fox Corporation Chairman Rupert Murdoch, who we gained some insight from in court documents. In his testimony, he acknowledged that some of the hosts did more than just give a platform to false voter fraud election claims, but actually endorse them. He also confirmed he could have exerted some control over the network. Fox, as you both mentioned, has defended its election coverage and called this lawsuit baseless.
And Danny, how long are we expecting this trial to go on for? Is it possible that there's a settlement reached before we even see it go to trial now that we're experiencing this delay of a day?
Yeah, I think the judge budgeted 6 weeks, but that is always just a rough estimate. And we lawyers, when we're asked how long our case takes, we always add a couple days on or weeks just to be safe. But this is a case that I am just completely confused as to why settlement talks didn't go on earlier. If it's true that Fox is considering settling this case, they should have done this a long time ago before all the bloodletting in the public arena. Now, in the ordinary case that nobody cares about, nobody covers, insurance carriers and defendants love to wait until the eve of trial. It's like magical thinking. They think that something could happen with their case that helps them. But ultimately, And when it comes to trial, they don't like uncertainty. They don't like the coin flip that is a jury verdict. But in this case, Fox has already suffered. It's already gotten all of its information. Its dirty laundry has all been aired. This is something, if they are serious about settlement, they probably should have thought about weeks, months, maybe even a year ago.
Well, a lot to watch. You called it a coin flip. The coin's definitely in the air. Emily and Danny, thank you so much.
Turning now to a tragedy out of Alabama, where police are investigating a mass shooting that happened over the weekend. 4 people were killed, more than 24 others were injured when gunfire erupted at a Sweet 16 party. NBC News correspondent Priscilla Thompson has more.
Well, witnesses say the dance studio just behind me was dark and packed with people when gunfire erupted. Police say 4 people were killed and 28 people injured, most of them teens. Investigators spent the entire day Sunday combing this crime scene, looking for any clues about how all of this unfolded. But for now, they are sharing very few details, declining to say anything about a motive or whether or not they have identified or arrested any suspects. Instead, they are calling on the community for any tips that could help them as they continue to investigate what exactly happened here. Meanwhile, we are learning that one of the family members here has identified one of the victims as Philstavius Dowdell, a star on the high school football team who had planned to go to Jacksonville State here in Alabama and play in the fall. Now, as all of this unfolded here in Alabama, in Louisville, Kentucky, there was also a shooting where police say 2 people were killed and 4 people injured after shots rang out at a park. And now President Biden is calling the wave of mass shootings, quote, outrageous and unacceptable, and calling on Congress to pass stricter gun laws. Back to you.
Priscilla Thompson, thank you.
Turning now to Missouri, where this morning there are growing calls for justice after a 16-year-old black boy was shot twice after ringing the wrong doorbell. Celebrities have been joining in calls for justice, including actress Halle Berry posting these photos demanding action. The community in Kansas City also protesting yesterday as word spread through social media. Kansas City police say the teen, whose name was not released by authorities, went to pick up his siblings Thursday night and ended up at the wrong address, apparently mistaking the residence for one that was a block away. The resident, whose name also has not been released, was taken into custody and held for 24 hours, the maximum for a suspect in a felony until charges are filed. Now the community is calling for answers.
The fact that there's a kid in the hospital and everything I read says not even a charge has been done, that concerns me.
Just hold this man accountable, and you see that the community came out and supported.
The teen remains in the hospital in stable condition, and the teen's family has hired prominent civil rights lawyers Lee Merritt and Ben Crump. And the National Rifle Association held its annual conference in Indianapolis over the weekend. The convention came amid the recent mass shootings in Nashville, Louisville, and now Alabama. The event saw 2024 Republican presidential hopefuls take to the stage and address supporters. So for more on this, we're joined by NBC News senior national politics reporter Jonathan Allen. John, good to see you again. So we know the event was headlined by former President Donald Trump. What were some of the biggest takeaways from his speech?
I think the biggest takeaway from Donald Trump's speech is he understands that it's very difficult, if not impossible, to win a Republican presidential primary while calling for gun restrictions. In fact, the folks at the NRA convention, many of them Republican primary voters, are absolutely looking for candidates who have reasons other than guns for this wave of mass shootings over recent years. Take a listen to what Donald Trump had to say about it.
But let's be very clear, the issue is not too many guns. The issue is too many thugs, hoodlums, and savage criminals on our street. That's really what the issue is. This is not a gun problem. This is a mental health problem. This is a social problem. This is a cultural problem. This is a spiritual problem.
And so that was Trump talking about all those various things other than restricting weapons, ammunition, or who has access to those things. It was a moment for Trump where he got a huge ovation from the crowd when he stepped on stage. He got Chants of USA, huge ovation when he left. And yet, when I spoke to gun rights activists at the NRA, some of them were disappointed a little bit with what Trump had done in office, in particular trying to ban bump stocks, which allow semi-automatic weapons to fire more like automatic weapons, and also when he considered at one point trying to ban the sale of weapons to people under 21.
And John, of course, Trump is not the only prominent Republican we heard from. Who else spoke during the convention?
Pretty much everybody who is running for president or thinking about running for president on the Republican side. So you had South Dakota Governor Kristi Noem, who's been mentioned as a possible candidate, Chris Sununu, the governor of New Hampshire. Ron DeSantis visited by video, as did Nikki Haley. And, of course, you had former Vice President Mike Pence. Take a listen here.
President Biden and the Democrats have returned to the same tired arguments about gun control and gun confiscation. But we don't need gun control. We need crime control. We don't need lectures about the liberties of law-abiding citizens. We need solutions to protect our kids.
And so what you have here from Mike Pence, very similar to what Donald Trump was saying, essentially taking the idea of gun restrictions and holding that up for ridicule and turning to a different point altogether. Mike Pence was applauded for many of the things that he said while he was on stage, but when he got up to speak, he was booed pretty lustily. Got some applause too, but the boos were very loud. Same thing when he left the stage. Obviously, a lot of President Trump's supporters are still angry with Pence for not certifying the 2020 election. I'm sorry, for certifying the 2020 election.
Yeah, I mean, lots of prominent political figures there. And I know the NRA has also been criticized numerous times in the past over its response to mass shootings. Of course, this is in the context of many mass shootings that have been happening in our country. We actually saw protesters there at the NRA event. So from what we've seen, John, are they still as influential and important, the organization, as it used to be?
It's such a great question, and the answer is they are not as powerful as they used to be because they've been through scandal, they've been through lawsuit. There is, a group of gun owners who would like to see some gun restrictions, and still they are the most powerful single platform for candidates to reach gun owners. And so, again, the NRA remains powerful, and it will. It appears that it will never change.
All right, John Allen, thank you so much.
Bipartisan outrage is growing over the leak of classified documents online as the 21-year-old National Guardsman suspect awaits a hearing this week. Congress is calling for more accountability. NBC News Justice and Intelligence correspondent Ken Delanian has the latest on the growing outrage in Washington.
There is growing outrage among members of Congress about the national security leaks, even as new documents are published online. One lawmaker even calling for people to be fired. Here's more. As accused leaker Jack Teixeira awaits a detention hearing Wednesday, lawmakers expressing outrage.
The sources and methods of how we collect on adversaries have been compromised. Some people need to be fired over this.
These are damaging both the United States and to our allies.
Calling the leaks inexplicable, given that the man accused of releasing the documents was a 21-year-old Air National Guardsman working on a remote base in Massachusetts.
Who was keeping watch? Where was the custody of the documents and who were they for?
Meanwhile, a leaked U.S. intelligence report published by the Washington Post, but not seen by NBC News, says the Russian government believes its disinformation operations on American social media are hugely successful, boasting that networks detect Russian bots just 1% of the time. Experts are wondering whether Teixeira is emblematic of a new risk. He allegedly uploaded the documents to the gaming platform Discord, which is so popular with young people that the military has even used it as a recruiting tool. An official Pentagon guide to Discord urged military members, don't post anything in Discord that you wouldn't want seen by the general public. Teixeira's friends say he lived by a different code, sharing secrets to impress them.
Individuals have access to much more information. Part of this is an overcorrection from 9/11, whereas, the problem was too much information was too compartmented. And so there was a need to share more.
The chairman of the House Intelligence Committee saying the alleged leaker could have been stopped.
Clearly, he was having access to documents that he should not have had access to, and someone should have been paying attention.
Lawmakers plan to investigate the obvious security failures here, including how the leaker smuggled out secret documents, but also the broader issue of whether too many people have access to too many secrets. Back to you.
Ken, thank you. And this weekend on Meet the Press, Louisiana Senator Bill Cassidy discussed the battle over abortion rights in the U.S. This as the Supreme Court has temporarily preserved medication abortion access to Americans. Here's moderator Chuck Todd.
Well, hello there, Zinkley and Lindsay. This week on Meet the Press, I had on Republican Senator Bill Cassidy from Louisiana to discuss the future of abortion access. How will the Texas judge's ruling on mifepristone impact women's health care nationwide? Take a look at what the senator had to say about the issue.
I think what is important is that we have a political process by which we resolve these issues. That particular ruling seems to be going through, it was on a process-oriented thing. Among the reasons that they ruled that way, I'm told, is that the FDA did not follow correctly the Administrative Procedures Act.
On this Texas decision, it does seem like it's going to call into question other FDA approvals on other drugs. I mean, do you worry about the upending a status quo and sort of upending the FDA's authority in a way that will be create sort of chaos in the pharmaceutical industry?
I think that's totally alarmist. It's totally alarmist. And by the way, when did the FDA go above the law? It can ignore the Administrative Procedure Act, which every other agency has to follow, theoretically, but they don't have to. So I mean, I think that's alarmist, and I also think that the FDA should not be above the law.
Did it turn out Roe v. Wade was the uncomfortable middle ground for America?
I think Dobbs is the uncomfortable middle ground, where people will confront that there's a diversity of opinion, and no one group has the ability to impose their will upon the other. Dobbs, I think, was the correct decision.
You can see my full interview and a lot more at MeetThePress.com. You can also get more Meet the Press right here on NBC News Now every single weekday at 4 p.m.
Chuck, thanks so much. We start the week with a major cool down for a lot of the U.S. Some even expecting some spring snow. Others are getting some April showers.
That's right. So NBC News meteorologist Michelle Grossman is tracking a new storm system this morning and all the weather. Good morning, Michelle.
Good morning to you both. Great to see you on this Monday. And yeah, we're starting out with a few problem areas on this Monday, one being those April snow showers and also some rain showers. We saw over a foot of snow in some spots over the weekend. We're going to add to that today, even a foot in some spots. So we have winter alerts in place where you see the pink, if that is your winter storm warning. We have a blizzard warning even. We're going to see winds really gusty. Winds could gust up to 50 miles per hour. So this is for portions of the upper Great Lakes as we head throughout this Monday. And looking on radar, you can see that snow is falling. It is heavy. Where you see that whiter blue, that's where we're looking at that heaviest snow falling. We're looking at mixed precipitation too, the purples, the pinks, and then some heavy rain throughout the northeast, the reds, the yellows, the oranges. That's where we're seeing the heaviest rain falling. So we could see some flash flooding in portions of the northeast as we head throughout this Monday. The green is that plain rain, and that will continue too in parts of the northeast. Now, further down south, we're looking at some heavy rain this morning in Florida. And I want to mention, because Fort Lauderdale received over 25 inches of rain last Wednesday into Thursday. We're getting more rain today. We saw it this morning, even some lightning strikes, some heavy rain with those brighter colors. But we're going to get a whole batch throughout the day here as we see some showers and storms roll through, and they could drop some heavy rain, especially in southern Florida, right around Miami. Now, rainfall amounts anywhere from an inch, but greater amounts within those showers and thunderstorms. So something to watch, and also the chance for some strong winds. Further to the north, we are tracking that snow. Where you see the pink and purple, that is the highest amount. So again, some spots receiving an additional foot of snow. We're looking at really cold air in place. The winds are bringing down that cold air from Canada, and we're going to see some cooler temperatures into the northeast as well. This is a setup, an area of low pressure, spinning very slowly. It's bringing down that cold air. It's going to linger over the Great Lakes today, also tomorrow, bringing that heavy, wet snow and also the strong winds. Then by tomorrow, moving ever so slowly to the north and also to the east, that rain mixing with some wet snow in the higher terrain, and then that cool air for portions of the northeast. So good news is it's a short-lived cold blast because we're looking at warmer temperatures by the end of the work week. So anywhere from an inch, quarter inch, half inch of rain in the northeast. But where you see that yellow, we could see pockets of heavier rain, and we are concerned about flash flooding in portions of New England for today. But let's talk about those temperatures because it is cold. Temperatures in the 30s and 40s today, well below normal for this time of year, even up to 22 degrees below what is typical for this time of year. And that cold air is into the Ohio Valley. Columbus 46, Pittsburgh just 49 degrees. That's 15 degrees below average. This will move off to the east tomorrow. So that April chill affecting portions of the Northeast. Syracuse just 49. That's 10 degrees below average. Buffalo 41 and Scranton 50 degrees. But look at this, a quick rebound, and we're back into the 60s on Wednesday in New York, 70s on Thursday, 71 on Thursday, 71 on Friday. In D.C., you could hit 90 degrees on Friday. If not, you're going to be into the mid and upper 80s. So we'll get through the next 2 days, and then we're going to warm it right back up. Back to you guys.
I like the sound of heat.
Michelle,
Me too. Thank you.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. Follow today's top stories and breaking news by downloading the NBC News app.